welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, a podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This one, I was a little late getting to the party. I originally did not have any real interest in seeing this one, though I do really enjoy Dungeons and Dragons. I have done like a previous episode on Critical Role and kind of their cartoon and how much I love them. The sort of trailer for Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves didn't really entice me to want to see this one in the theater, so I had originally planned on just kind of waiting to see it when it came out on like digital download on TV. However, when I started seeing the reviews for this film kind of pop up, and they were overwhelmingly in the positive. And I don't mean like critic reviews, because at this point, I sort of view critic reviews as bought and paid for. And so I don't necessarily think that they are accurate or even truthful. But I mean like reviews from people that had already gone to see it. I ended up going to the theater to see this one in theater. And I have to say, as has happened a few times before, any of you that are like subscribers and listen to quite a few of my reviews, I have found myself on kind of the opposite end of the table of I feel like mass audiences everywhere. Though I did not think that Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves was like a horrible film, I did not enjoy this one as much as I feel like the majority of audiences and probably a lot of you enjoyed it. I thought, I guess in my mind, like when I saw the trailer, I expected it to be a little bit sort of not cringy. Cringy is not the correct word for it, but it's the only word that's coming to mind right now. But I sort of thought it was going to just be a little bit silly. I expected it to kind of be, you know, just a regular family-friendly movie, but not one that I necessarily had to rush out and see immediately, like something that I definitely could have waited for. And I think that my initial reaction, at least for myself specifically, was accurate. I found just the plot of this one to be pretty basic, and I think that that is the point, right? I think it is intended to be just a fun family film, a bit like maybe some of the Marvel superhero movies, but potentially I think not quite as much action. This one did have action, but I just mean a little bit less. There wouldn't be anything in Dungeons and Dragons, for instance, that you would as a parent feel like you needed to watch this movie to kind of make sure that you could approve it for your kids. I feel like this one is just really PG-13, right? Like it just really kind of hits on that PG side of things, like really leans heavily, really more to the PG-ish side of it. But for me, I guess I was expecting it not to be quite so like formulaic, even though I think that was the intention, that it really be true to and follow kind of the formula of Dungeons and Dragons. But I guess I've gotten a little bit spoiled by how entertaining a lot of the campaigns for Critical Role are, and just how sort of creative and fun those are, that when I walked into Honor Among Thieves, I was expecting maybe a little bit more of an adult portrayal of Dungeons and Dragons than what Honor Among Thieves ended up being. Again, I really can't say like that it's bad. I think it did exactly what it intended to do. And I can see why like Dungeons and Dragons fans would enjoy it, because it really kind of has pretty much all of the basic characters that you could expect to see in a film. For me, it just was very predictable. And because it was so predictable, it kind of was a bit boring for me because I sort of knew what was going to happen 30 or 40 minutes ahead of that particular thing happening. And therefore, it kind of wasn't necessarily as interesting. I think we all knew kind of what was going to happen with the bad guy, or I guess in this case, the bad girl, Daisy Head, who plays Sophina, the character that basically is the villain of the film. And then I think we kind of all knew that Hugh Grant was sort of just there for the money, though I did enjoy like his character. And I enjoyed certain elements of the film quite a lot. I enjoyed Hugh Grant because who the heck wouldn't? I really liked the Thanes character. I just thought that he was pretty humorous. Like there is a certain scene when he sort of leaves the troupe where he's just walking in a complete straight line, like no deviations whatsoever. And there is like a huge boulder on the beach. And instead of going around it because he's walking in a straight line, he just walks completely over this boulder. And I found that pretty humorous and I enjoyed his character. But again, he's not in it for very long. So you kind of only get the joy of his character for a pretty short amount of time. I did also very much enjoy the extremely fat red dragon. But again, like I feel kind of like that one sort of missed the mark for me because it's like this comically obese dragon that is literally like rolling around in some instances, but the tension is meant to be high and you're meant to think that their lives are truly in danger from a creature that I feel like they should have just easily been able to outrun. So I don't know. Like for me, it was just sort of cute to see him, but I didn't necessarily find him at all terrifying, despite the fact that he was kind of nom-nomming some of the bad guys that were in the scene at the same time. So I don't know. Like there were some elements that I did enjoy, but I felt overall it was just too generic for me to really think that it was super great. So though I can understand why a ton of people were giving it 5 stars, I don't think I could really give it more than like a 3 or 3.5 stars, just because I think they could have been a little bit more imaginative and pushed the storyline just a tiny bit more in the direction of being kind of unique, like a unique Dungeons and Dragons tale, as opposed to just the same formulaic basic Dungeons and Dragons, kind of set of characters. But overall, I thought it was like a good time, but I think at the end of the day, I still wish that I had not paid the money to see it in theaters and had just waited for it to come out on streaming. But that is just my opinion. I would love to know yours. If you have seen Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, subscribe if you want to join the movie nerd family. You can find me on Instagram at Cinematic Sarcastic Podcast, and you can now find a lot of my older episodes uploading onto YouTube periodically, so make sure to check those out, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Next.